Are you still not 100% sure what written co-production and written mediation mean in your EOI writing exam? Well, these tasks are key and you need to know them inside out. In this video, I'm going to tell you exactly what these tasks are, how to do them, and I'll give you some examples so that you don't waste your time just trying to figure it out by yourself. I'll make it simple, I promise. And stick around till the end because I'll also share a real exam sample already done for you. Before we dive into the task, let me quickly explain how the writing exam is structured, because it's not exactly the same in every region of Spain. Now, the format I'm focusing on is the one used in Andalusia, because that's where I live and work. But don't worry, because if you live in another community, this is also going to help you. Several regions follow a very similar structure, where written co-production and written mediation is combined into one task. Now, in your writing exam, you're going to find two tasks. You're going to find the first task, which is the written production, and also you're going to find a second task that is the written co-production plus mediation. Now let's break it down. The first task, which is the written production, is usually a longer type of text. Very popular texts are opinion essays, pros and cons, articles, reports, reviews, proposals, etc. By the way, if you haven't watched my videos about opinion essay or pros and cons, please check them out. I have left the links in the description box. Right, and then we have the second task, which is the written co-production and mediation. Now, in this task, as you can see, you have a combination of things to do. First, normally you have to reply to someone, okay, by writing a message or an email or perhaps a letter. That will be the part for the written co-production. And then you also have to normally include information that you can find in an infographic or in a text or in a blog post, right? And that will be the part for your written mediation. Now, as you can see on the screen, this is a real example from a real B2 writing exam. Now, let's take a look at it. It says, well, you receive an email from your friend, and as it is going to be very hot, you are concerned that they might suffer heat stroke. You decide to write back, answering his/her questions and giving him or her some advice using the information in the infographic below, which you have found online. Write your email using 125 to 150 words, and this is the email that your friend sent. And it says, "Hi, how are things? I hope you and your family are well. Guess what? I'm coming to your town for 2 weeks. I can't wait. I'm super excited. I know you won't be finishing your exams until the end of the month, so I could spend a couple of days sightseeing on my own. You know how much I love it. And then I will text you so that we can meet once you are free. What do you reckon? I know your town is lovely. I've seen pictures of it on the internet. What's worth visiting? Any favorite restaurants? What do you recommend? Looking forward to seeing you. Love, Robin." What you can see on the screen is a real exam that was done a few years ago. Let's concentrate on the important parts, because before we start writing, we need to think, okay, what have we been asked in this task? And as you can see, I have circled a couple of things from the task. The first question that we have to answer is, okay, what do you reckon? So what do you think about me spending a couple of days with you in your hometown? The second thing we need to address is what is worth visiting. I need to give my friend some tips, some places, some sites that they are worth visiting, plus some, interesting restaurants that he should go to. Right. And also remember that this task normally comes with an infographic, with an article, with another text that we have to mediate. Now, in this case, this task came with this infographic. As you can see, it's an infographic with tips to beat the heat. And here you can see different pieces of advice in order not to suffer heat stroke. So for example, drink water, avoid alcoholic drinks, get some rest, have some showers, get cool, and wear appropriate clothes, etc. Okay, so now let me explain what we need to do. In this task, in this writing task, we have to do two things. The first thing is, of course, answer your friend's questions. Yeah, remember? So we need to tell my friend, you need to tell your friend, okay, what do you reckon about him coming to visit you? So are you happy about that? Are you excited? Obviously, you're going to tell him, hopefully, that you're going to be very excited to see him. Then we need to give him recommendations to eat and to visit. Okay, so that would be the first thing that we need to do. So answer your friend's questions. And the second thing we need to do is to give him advice based on the infographic, okay? That will be the part of the mediation task, okay? So we need to do two things in the same task. Right, so let's imagine that we're gonna start with the email, and then I'm going to forget for now the infographic and the tips, and I'm just simply going to do the written co-production part, which is to answer my friend's questions. So then I'm going to say something like, "Hi Robin, that's amazing news. I'm so happy you're coming. You will love it here." So as you can see here, I am letting him know how I feel about him coming. So I am answering the question, What do you reckon? Then you're going to continue and say something like, I'll be busy with exams at first, but once I'm done, we'll have plenty of time to hang out. Now, this is something additional, and maybe it's a good idea to tell your friend when you will be available for him. And finally, we're going to say something like, definitely check out the Old Town and the Riverside Park. Both are perfect for walking and photos. And for food, La Trastienda is my top pick, great tapas and super friendly staff. So here I have also recommended him places to eat at and also sightseeing he needs to do. So far we have addressed the part of the written co-production. Now let's move on to the second part. Now remember, in this mediation part, what I need to give him is advice, but not my own advice or the advice that I think is better, but advice that is based on the infographic that I read earlier. So you can write something like this. About the weather, yeah, it's going to be boiling. Now first, make sure you take water that's been kept cool. It'll make a big difference in the heat. Avoid heavy or dark clothes. Go for something simple and breathable instead. Plus, a cap or something to cover your head can really help if you're outside all day. One more tip before I forget. Having a refreshing shower is a good way to cool off if you've been walking around in the sun. Hope these tips help. Text me as soon as you arrive. I can't wait to catch up. So as you can see, I have given him advice, but not advice that I made up, but advice that is present in the infographic that I just read. Now, these are some things that you need to bear in mind every time you do a writing activity like this one. First, you need to respond to all the questions that are present in the task. So for example, I am responding to all my friends' questions. So what do you reckon? What restaurants you recommend? And what sightseeing places do you recommend as well? The second thing you need to do is pay attention to the register you are using. Because Robin is my friend, obviously the register that I'm going to choose is a very informal or colloquial one. And finally, which is probably the most important part when it comes to mediation, is that you need to paraphrase the information that is in the infographic as much as you can. So what you are not supposed to do is copy and paste every single word that you find in the infographic, but as long as you can paraphrase it, the better it will be for you. Now, let's take a look at things that you shouldn't do. So obviously, you shouldn't ignore your friend. So what do I mean by that? So imagine you give him your friend tips to avoid heat stroke, but then you forget to mention the places that he should visit or the restaurants that he should eat at. So you are doing something which is very rude, which is ignoring your friend. So please don't do that. It's important, as I said before, don't make mistakes with the register. Imagine that you reply to Robin doing this, saying this: Dear Robin, I am writing to inform you that our town offers a wide range of tourist attractions and dining options. I suggest that you consult the local tourism office for more details. Yours sincerely. It's absurd, isn't it? Because he's your best friend or he's one of your good friends, it doesn't make sense that you use this super polite, elegant, and sophisticated register. And as I said earlier as well, don't copy-paste every single word that you find in the infographic part. So, for example, if the infographic says, to avoid heat stroke, wear light-colored clothes, carry a bottle of cold water with you, and take a cool shower, okay? We are not going to say exactly the same thing, but we are going to try to rephrase it by saying, for example, okay, to cope better with the heat, try not to wear dark clothing, make sure you have water with you when you are out, and take a shower to cool off if it gets too much. So as you can see, I am saying the same idea, but I have changed a little bit my words. And one tip I recommend, because sometimes I find students that say, hey Monica, but sometimes I cannot find synonyms for certain words or expressions. And one of the strategies that work really well with mediation is flip the sentence and use the negative thing. So for example, the real infographic says, okay, wear light colored clothes. So if you cannot rephrase that, because obviously it's quite difficult to say something similar, you can flip it around and use negative and say, okay, try not to wear dark clothes or dark clothing, because it's another way to say the same thing, but just simply making something positive into negative. Right, so let's remember very quickly what is important to do in this writing activity. First of all, once you have the task and you start reading the task, there is no time to waste. So I highly recommend that you jot down synonyms that come to mind when you are reading the activity. So for example, if you have a term or an expression, just write on the side of your exam paper synonyms that really come to mind. Now, it's also important that we only select information that is relevant. So for example, in this task, it's not really necessary to select relevant information because any tip that is in the infographic can work. But sometimes you have, specific instructions that make you, or they force you to choose only pieces of information and discard the rest. So make sure that you're only choosing and transmitting what is relevant relevant to the other person. Make sure that with this task, you always do the 2 skills. So you need to co-produce the writing by replying to your friend, replying to the email, but also don't forget that there is normally an infographic or an article or a text that you need to base yourself on. Now, the icing on the cake is if you can also throw in some cool advanced vocabulary and structures to top it off. So not only you are mediating and replying well, but also you are, combining everything with good grammar and also good vocabulary. By the way, if you're struggling with advanced grammar, I have a grammar ebook that I have left in the description box that you can check out, and it will give you ideas on advanced expressions and structures that you can use. Now, be aware that there is a word limit, so please don't be short and don't overwrite. Make sure that your word limit is right. And also be super aware of the time, okay? Normally, you're not given much time to do this kind of task, so make sure that you plan it well and that you keep an eye on the time before it runs out. So that will be it. Make sure as well that you leave a few minutes in your exam, okay, to double check everything, to revise that everything is correct before you hand it in. Now, if this kind of video helps you, please let me know in the comments so I know that in the future this is something that interests you. And also check the description below because I have left you a free PDF with everything with this example that we have been discussing in the video ready done for you. By the way, do you know what oral mediation is? If you're not sure, this next video is for you. See you in the next one.